Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Addict's Advocate. I'm your host, Dusty Dean, and it is my pleasure to welcome Caleb from. How you doing, Caleb?
I'm doing well. Another day in the life.
There we
Just
go. There we go. Yeah, keeping up the good fight, right?
yes, sir.
Um, hey, the beauty of the internet. We met each other through Instagram. You have a great site that's highly inspirational, and I appreciate you spending the evening with me talking about all things addiction related. You're out in the good state of Louisiana. I'm out here in California, so it's kind of cool that we're able to do this remotely and not require a flight or a studio session somewhere in middle
Right.
ground. So I appreciate again the time that you're spending with me tonight, and I kind of just wanted to start as I always do with giving my guests the opportunity to talk about the background of how you know how the addiction started. What were the catalysts? How long did it take you for you to recognize that there was a problem? And kind of just give me, your story.
Yeah. Well, I my first drink I was about 16, maybe 15, not sure. Started drinking every weekend pretty much. I was raised pretty strict, so I guess I just in a rebellion type deal. Just wanted to drink. I don't know the exact reason I started, but yeah, about 16, drank every weekend, and then when I was 18, I played some college football. Drank, partied, um, and then yeah, one time even when I was 18, I found myself in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. Swore that day I would never drink again. Didn't admit that I was an alcoholic, but swore that day I would never drink again. And then I ended up dropping out, moved to Wyoming, moved to Idaho, moved to Denver. I probably started drinking about every day in 2020. Went through a breakup. A lot of stuff happened. Living by myself in Denver, no family, no nothing. So I guess I looked towards alcohol as just an outlet to just forget about everything, just no care in the world. But yeah, so started drinking about every day. Started with beers, and then eventually I would have to drink so many beers to get drunk. Switched to liquor, and then I was a very functional alcoholic for a good while. But then it started to have an effect with my work, calling in sick, especially during the football season. Drinking heavily all weekend, watching football, Monday morning, calling sick just because I was doing pest control and had to drive. It's just some Monday mornings I wake up and be like, there's no way I'm still drunk. I'm not even hungover. I'm still hammered. But yeah, I was able to get away with that for a while. Got fired from that job in the summer of 22, I believe. Um, Ended up getting a different pest control job, but I think I admitted that I was an alcoholic to myself about probably about yeah around the same time 2 years ago, maybe a little bit more. I was like, hey, you got a problem, but not me. I'm not alcoholic. I drink too much. I just like to drink. That's what I would tell myself. I just like to drink. No problem with that. But then it really just started to affect my life, my relationships. I could hold a job for a little while, but I mean, I'm a sociable guy. I'm easy to get along with. So I think if I had a different personality, probably would get fired a lot quicker from jobs. But about 2 years ago, I did my first AA meeting, got a sponsor and whatnot. But well, the ironic part of my sponsor even told me about a month in to that sobriety stint that he didn't think that I needed him, which kind of yeah, I've told that story a few times, and not a great sponsor, I guess, in the long run to say that, because I mean, if you're a true alcoholic, you're never done with it. You're never, like I like to say, I'm not going to beat my alcoholism till the day I die. You know, Hopefully that's I have 50 years under my belt, but there's one thing I have learned: it doesn't matter how many days you have sober, whether it's 7 days or 7 years or 7 years, whatever. That one drink will bring you right back into the cycle and have you starting from scratch, because my relapses have everything I have built up. It's taken it all away from me. If I relapse, I'll lose my job within 3 weeks, like if not less. Because when I drink, I drink. But yes, try to get sober probably 2 years ago. Never really took it seriously up until this past October, which I have relapsed twice since then. Um, on day 26 now. Got up to 123 days. That's the most I ever got. Um, but uh, but at that time, I thought I could handle it. Like yeah, the demons were saying I could handle it, which is Absolutely false. Yeah, I saw a quote I posted on my page one time. Thinking you can moderate your drinking is like switching seats on the Titanic. The ship's going down regardless. I mean, some people, good for them. They can have a few drinks, even get drunk on the weekend and not pick it up the next day. But that's not how my brain's wired. If I have one sip, I'm getting hammered. I'll wake up the next day a little hungover. I'm gonna go to the liquor store, get a drink, so I don't have to feel that way anymore. And then the next day it's even worse, and so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, this is hopefully my last attempt of getting sober. Hopefully, I can be successful. But I have learned a lot, and I don't like to use the word attempt because I'm taking this very seriously, even more serious than I have before. I don't like to use the word attempt because it's not an attempt. It's a goal. It's an aspiration. It's more than an attempt. It's what I'm going to do, you know. But yeah, probably about 2 years ago is when I admitted to myself that I was an alcoholic, and that I had no control over it. Even though it took a lot more than that to get me to going on this journey of sobriety. Even though I failed multiple times, I failed many times. I probably tried to get sober at least 15 times. I couldn't even try to give you a ballpark number. Well, I guess my ballpark is around 15, but I don't know if that's 10 times or 20 times. I have no clue, to be honest. I would get like a month and a half of sobriety and then be like, okay, that's good. I would reward myself with a drink. I'd be like, yeah, you've gone long enough. You can have a sip. And then, yeah, because my tolerance is very high, but once you stop for a while, it starts at zero. 4 shots can get you drunk. 6 shots when you haven't drank for a while. But tolerance is kind of like muscle memory. You stay at the gym for a while, your muscle memory is you're gonna get back solid pretty quickly. Same thing with a tolerance. My tolerance go back to right where it was. I could put down 2 fifths, no problem. Or I'll be drunk, but I could put down 2 fifths easy. Which isn't great. Not proud of it, but just yeah. Alcohol is poison. Took me a long time to realize that. I am on the younger side. Maybe it's good I caught on as fast as I did, but I mean, I was drinking myself to death, even this young. I mean, I'm 25. I'm not the youngest, but I don't claim to. You know, sometimes I can be wiser than my years, but I don't practice what I preach at the same time. But I think I've learned my fair share of lessons. Hopefully this last one sticks and I can build this one off of the past lessons that I've learned. I always pray that I don't forget what alcohol has done to me, what it has done to my life, because it's ruining my life. It's every aspect of it, every aspect of it.
I got to tell you, thanks for sharing. And yeah, you do have time on your side. You haven't been doing this to yourself for 20 years, and that's a blessing. And I think we forget that the addiction, the disease is so cunning, right? I've gone down that route where I've lasted a week, and I never considered myself to be a true alcoholic, but just like, yeah, I'm drinking too much, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll find that, a night at the casino ends up turning into 6 hours later, and I'm praying over the porcelain god, heaving my guts up, looking at the missus going, why the hell do I do this to myself?
Yep.
And then feeling like shit the next day. By the next week, I'm like, yeah, see, I'm fine. I don't need to drink all week long, and I can reward myself on the weekend. And
Yep.
and I used to be, in my younger years, I used to be, the fun loving guy, the party guy, and everything else. And one of the things that definitely hit home for me was as I got older, my behaviors, my actions, the excessive amount of drinking that leads to blackouts and just really poor decisions
Mm-hmm.
just continued to escalate. And I did the same thing that you did. And I felt like I was strong enough. Should I waited 6 years? Of course, I've got a dual, abuse problem, right? Because I was smoking weed on a daily basis, even when I was sober from alcohol. But I gave myself 6 years and I was like, I'm cured. I'm completely
Right.
cured. There's nothing anybody can do for me now. And it's just like you say, it's because the tolerance is so low. I've got a couple beers in me, a couple nice tall fat, 9% IPAs in me. I'm feeling good. And hey, yeah, see, I can do this. I can moderate, right? And then it just slowly starts increasing.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I know is I'm 6 months into it and I'm just getting railed. And and yeah, it's and then all of a sudden you wake up the next day and you're like, well, I can't survive in this type of withdrawal state, so I need to freaking
Mm-hmm.
get going again.
Yeah,
And hey, it's
withdrawals
Saturday morning, so why not?
ain't no joke. That's for sure.
Yeah.
No joke.
With as far as like your free time, because obviously, I find that my addictions always occupied me, right? And so with not having that thing that you did after work or on the weekends and stuff, did you find that the free time was getting the best of you, and like you didn't have enough extracurricular things in your life that, that was because that was your hobby, that there was nothing else to kind of pull you away from that and get your mind off of it?
Yeah, I mean the boredom definitely has a play, and it could be tough to deal with that boredom and deal with those thoughts of regret and shame you have from your alcoholism, especially at the beginning. And like a lot of activities I like to do are heavily evolved around drinking, like going to a ball game, or going golfing. Those are two things everybody drinks when they go golfing. Everybody drinks when they go to a ball game. But even just sitting down watching sports, because sports are my thing. But even because yeah, alcohol, at least in my addiction brain, alcohol makes everything better. Everything better, but it's not the truth. Maybe that quick high you get, that quick buzz, whatever you want to call it, for the time being. But yeah, when your tolerance is so high, you chase maximum. You're like, oh, I can get drunker than this and be okay. I'm not as drunk as I want to be, and the next thing you know, you're just in another world, not even watching the game anymore, just playing on your phone or doing whatever. But I found that working out helps me. It clears my mind. You get that runner's high type deal. That natural, all the endorphins and whatnot, those natural chemicals in your body that get released through physical activity. That helps me. Even after the fact, you just feel good. And that feeling, like, even in my addiction, I would go work out, and like I would not feel like drinking, but I still had that part of my brain that was like just wired to go to the liquor store before I went home, just wired to go get some drink, even if I didn't want it. It's crazy how it happens. I didn't even want to drink, but it's just such a habit. Not even the habit of drinking, the habit of stopping at the liquor store on the way home. And it's like sometimes I'd hit that. I would tell myself no, 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 and I just hit that blinker, go into autopilot, hit the blinker, turn into the liquor store. And and then I get home and I'm like, well, I just bought it, might as well drink it. And then after the first shot, it's like, damn, why'd I do that? But I already bought it. I'm already in too deep. Drink the rest of it. Yeah, but yeah, I'm trying to. I need to get into reading. I want to get into reading, possibly even try to start learning another language. Just keep my mind occupied when I start to feel like the boredom's getting to me. I lost my job with my last relapse, so I've had a lot of downtime. Just got a job today actually, but just a stepping stone to a future job. I got a job at a server at Olive Garden, which is cool and whatever. I'm thankful for it, but not a long-term thing. Looking to go offshore, being away from it, no alcohol in sight. But that'll give me less time when I come back in my life to have the possibility of getting drinks. And then when I come back from offshore, um, just having 14 days, stay sober 14 days, and then I'm back on the boats or back at the rig or whatever. Um, yeah, hoping I can get something like that. But yeah, boredom definitely plays a key in how sometimes it can be hard to stay sober, especially when you're accustomed to having a drink, because you're never bored when you're having a drink. Never. You can be
Yeah.
bored, but you're not bored because you're in an altered state of mind, and you're not there per se. But yeah.
Yeah. What you're talking about is really familiar to me, because I remember the same thing. And one of the things that I learned in treatment was that, the routes home from work, you got to change the way you go home,
Hmm.
right? Even coming home to, to where you used to drink and things like that, right? If you've separated yourself from your drinking and you've come back to the same environment, move your furniture around, change some things, right? Just so that way it's a new environment. Because I would do the same thing. I would be like, God, I feel ashamed, but I'm going to pull in this liquor store. I'm ashamed buying it. I drink it, I feel better, and I go, shit, it's too late. Might as well finish off what I've got, and I'll deal with it tomorrow, right? And I'll start again fresh
Hmm.
tomorrow. And it just ends up, you keep on doing the same thing over and over again. One of the things that was really important for me was to recognize that, you know, dopamine's getting screwed up, right? Our brain chemicals are just our normal baseline for feeling okay in life. It has dropped down substantially. And alcohol has been basically bringing us back up to that normal feeling. So when
Right.
we're withdrawing and we're without it, our biorhythm, if you will, is kind of low. And so we're kind of feeling like shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
They say it's like 6 months to 2 years for that brain to kind of re-equalize. So you got to endure some of that. But the other problem is that there's this thing called anhedonia, which is basically, it's like a loss of all pleasure. Like anything and everything that you would have done, prior to your drinking ages, right? The things that you found joy in, you just can't find it anywhere. You can't find it
Right.
in anything that you're doing. And so it's a lot of it's, it's embracing the suck, it's sitting in the shit, right? And really trying to process your feelings, process, why you're feeling this way, recognize that it's the addiction trying to basically coerce you in, right? Because our rational brain basically disconnects when we're in addiction, right? It goes to the primitive brain. It's going to purely survival mode and the things that have helped it, kind of just feel okay about itself. And so it's tough, right? So it becomes a conscious effort day in and day out, right? And it's being willing to embrace those bad days, because because I was always either I was in a state of despair or I was high as a kite. I never had any in between type of reality. I mean, for 20 years straight, I mean, if I wasn't smoking and I didn't, even when I wasn't drinking, but if I didn't get my smoke on by a certain time of the day, I was an irritable, grouchy son of a bitch, and it was my retreat. And and then when you couple alcohol with it, I mean, it was just a vicious cycle. With all those things becomes the emotions. The
Mm-hmm.
emotions that surround it, the anxiety, the depression, just feeling like life is worthless unless I've got something in me that's going to help me feel better. So, I mean, alcohol, addictions of all sort really hijack the brain. One of the things I always have to be careful about is I don't simply just replace one with another, right? Because I enjoy working out. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy my video games from time to time. But just my personality, because I do have symptoms of bipolar, I will uber gravitate into something and almost become addictive in that. Sure, I might be successful in it, but I'm in an imbalance again. Right.
Right.
And so, and again, it's a part of trying to avoid all that other shit that I'm feeling in my life. And so I've just kind of, in a sense, I've replaced it for another. So I have to be conscious in letting myself, just sometimes have those down periods, not feel obligated because I'm not doing something right. I'm just kind of I'm gelling out, right? I'm just chilling out. I'm enjoying, a day, lounging on the couch. I'm extra tired today for some reason. Maybe it was the workout the day before, but allow myself just to be, and sometimes let unproductive days just happen. When you went into your relapse, we'll just take the last one for example. The last one that you had, because you're now 26 days clean. The relapse came from 123 days off, or no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you had 123 days. Tell me how those 123 days felt prior to your relapse. What'd that feel like to you?
They were amazing. They were amazing. And I will do a quick rewind. I moved back to Louisiana in October, from Denver. I went 44 days sober, and I was doing good. I had a pest control job, had a company vehicle. Again, I rewarded myself with a drink, thinking I could handle it. I think that time I knew I was lying to myself, probably in the back of my mind. I couldn't handle it. Turned it to drinking every day. Had to call it. Ended up getting fired within like 2 weeks. Lost my house. I was renting a house, but I lost it. And then kept on. Just made me drink more. Had to move back in with my parents. Yeah. I had to move back in with my parents, which sucked. Because yeah, I was out on my own for basically since I was 18, and having to do that was humbling, I guess. But so kind of drank off and on. I'd go like 7 days, a few days here, a few days there, sober. But the drinking never left me. I would drink when I could. I guess I wasn't taking sobriety seriously at the time. But so fast forward around the holiday season, I kind of don't even remember from Christmas Eve to January 3rd when I had to go to a rehab. Well, I went to the emergency room because I was so hammered. I drank 2/5 of 120 proof whiskey. Um, hammered, hammered. Couldn't even, I don't remember much of anything. But so yeah, I was in rehab for 10 days. Um, And then after that is when I started the 123 days. And I had tried to do the military, but long story short, they looked into my medical history and saw that I was an alcoholic. So they denied me, said try again in a year. And if you're good for a year without alcohol, we'll take you. I did pretty much every step I needed to take, and then the medical history was like the last step. But they were like, nah, bro, sorry, we can't do that. So then I was like, okay, I'll come, because I wanted to do something that I could have pride in. So I ended up joining the fire department. They didn't check into my medical history. Thank God, thankfully, I don't have anything wrong with me from my drinking. Definitely had some liver pains and all that, but thankfully my liver's a tough soldier. Yeah, it's hanging in there. But so yeah, joined the fire department, did the fire academy, did everything. I was in EMT school, and I was feeling great about myself. I was about to move out of my parents' house, like literally like a week away from it, and then I relapsed because life was going good, and not because I was sad or depressed or any of the above. I was just at a great state of mind, and I knew if I had one sip, I would lose it all. But that animal brain inside you, it had an angel on this shoulder and the devil on this shoulder, and the devil won that argument. I don't know how, because I post all the time about basically that exact same thing. Hey, you can have a drink, but it's a lie. And I didn't practice what I preached. And I had that one drink. Yeah, within 2.5 weeks, yeah, lost a job. Ended up catching a DWI. Didn't even make it out of my neighborhood. People I'm living with called the cops. Apparently they didn't know I was drinking, but I don't know how true that is. But yeah, I was drinking and didn't even make it out the neighborhood. Spent 3 weeks in jail. But the sad part about that is all I had on my mind the whole time I was in jail was getting a bottle of liquor. All I had on my mind was the second I get out of here, I'm having a bottle of liquor. And that's exactly what I did. Got out, drank, got a hotel room, just drank for days. Just nothing but drinking. I don't even really remember. I was just drinking. I'm just trying to forget about my past problems and the future problems that I'm gonna have to deal with the law. So I was just drinking, not a care in the world. Because yeah, alcohol is not the answer, but it makes you forget the question. So that's kind of what I was going for on that. Yeah, not proud of it, but that's the alcoholic in me. Um, but yeah, that 123 days was amazing. I keep track of my days. I'm trying not to keep track as much this time, but every day I would see that whatever day plus one. Every day I would give myself a little fist pump, pat on the back. I would be proud of myself every day, and yeah, and I'm open about my alcoholism too. Everybody at work knew I was alcoholic. They don't know the full extent, but yeah, I was working with the fire department, had pride in the job, thought I was finally doing something good with my life, felt great about it, and screwed it all up with one drink.
You again, the things just resonate with me. It's interesting how, and again, I know that society's big on, during celebrations, most of the advertisements for alcohol is, people are celebrating, having a good time. And I
Mm-hmm.
found too that even when I was feeling really good about myself, and I was actually almost on a natural high, the brain goes, well, let's get more of that now. We're feeling good. Let's feel better than that. And
Right.
it's a freaking devil. It is so cunning. It's such a mind fuck. One of the things that's scary is that relapses, I think, progressively get more dangerous because the chemistry's so out of whack and trying to re-equalize, and your tolerance is shifted, that you go back, and the excessiveness of it, and just the imbalance. That's why obviously people, especially with long-term drinking, they have seizures and things like that. And most people say now that if you're going to go into a rehab, right, you need to be medically assisted. Someone should
Mm-hmm.
just don't quit drinking cold turkey if you're a lifelong drinker, because your body may just completely revolt from you.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very surprised I haven't had a seizure.
Yeah, I think it's your youth. I think it's still the level of activity in your life, right? So your body was doing its best it could just to keep processing it and everything else. The other thing that you brought up, which is definitely something that for me it's been freeing, is that I no longer obsess about that shit. I no longer obsess about getting my ass home so I can get a drink. I no longer obsess about, the only way I'm getting to bed tonight is if I smoke a fatty. And again, it would be like, if I'm going to go out and do something, well, let's smoke first. If I've got nothing to do, or I'm going to smoke a brisket for, all day, I'm going to sit in my backyard and lounge, then I'm going to get a freaking fat buzz on, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was never to the point, it stopped becoming to a point where it was like, whew, I've had enough. I need to slow down. It was, for some reason, it became buzzed to wasted. And basically I lose track of that time. Because time definitely does shift when we're drinking, right? The concept of it changes. And when we're completely sober and we're twiddling our thumbs in the house, right? Because we're home from the gym and we've got a couple, 3 hours before we go to bed. And it's like, okay, now what? What am I going to do with myself? I can veg on the, watch TV, which some people would sit there and go, well, I just feel like I'm wasting my life at that point. The reality of it is that sometimes, some of the simple pleasures in life we are allowed to do, right? We have to not be so hard on ourselves, right? That's one of the
Yeah.
things, an addict brain very much is rapid thinking. It's constantly processing shit, much more than just a normal person. We have to take it easy on ourselves. And part of that is approaching ourselves with self-love, and starting to love who we are. Everybody's got a bag, right? There's imperfections in everybody on the face of the earth. If somebody tells you they're not imperfect, then they're just basically liars, or they're just completely unaware of what they're imperfect in, right? And so there is a blessing in knowing what we are. I've lost my shame for it. And if anything, I feel like now I can be of service, to others. And this has really been kind of like my 12th step. It's cathartic for me. It's therapeutic for me to talk with you about this, just so that we remember we're not alone, right? This is an isolating
Exactly.
disease. It's an isolating
Mm-hmm.
disease. It makes us lonely, and it's counterintuitive to the way that we should be just as people, right? We're meant to be together. We're meant to be in a community, and unfortunately, some of the people that we're surrounded with, like to drink. I grew up in a house that, I have addiction in my family, but not my immediate family, and not my father's not my biological father, the man who raised me. My biological father was a major addict, but the man who raised me, I saw him drunk maybe once in my entire life. My mom came from an addictive parents, but she saw the destruction in that, didn't want to have anything to do with it. But from 18 to 2021, if I was at the house and we had family and friends over and they were drinking and stuff, they were fine with it. If we were camping and we were drinking, passing around the kamikaze bombs all night long, and I'd get drunk or something, they would laugh about it and everything would be good. Because I think that the education, first of all, in the 80s, wasn't anything like it is now, right? But also just, maybe the denial, or maybe because we start hiding it, right? We can start being elusive with it. We can keep it, under wraps, and, put a face on to make us think, make people think that we're not as bad as we are. But that ends up breeding a cycle that ends up becoming difficult to stop. And if you have the addiction gene in you, you're not going to win.
Right.
I think that, there's a lot of talk, especially from the normal person perspective, that, this is a matter of self-will, right? Just will yourself to stop. And, I want to squash that reality right now, because people don't understand addiction if they don't have it.
Yep.
And this isn't about self-will. This is about a severe chemical imbalance. This is about a disease. And it's something that we're going to have forever, like you stated earlier. The only way that we're going to stay safe is from pure abstinence. I had someone in a meeting that I was at that talked about, she, grown woman, wife, married with children, all that stuff, very successful in her business, but, still had the friends that they were normie drinkers, right? They'd be able to go out to dinner, and have a cocktail or two, maybe tops, every once in a while. And she felt like her social environment required her to be able to get to that point again. She misses the drinking in that regard. But she said, as soon as I did it one day, and she did, she was able to moderate it. Like one beverage one night, and then maybe like a week later, she had like two beverages one night. She said the thing that was driving her absolutely bonkers is, as soon as she had the sip, she said the mental obsession with it was just unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she had, in a sense, she had the willpower, it was eating her alive. It was making her crazy. And so I think in that regard, there's a fragile mind, right? Our minds, in a sense, are fragile to addiction. We very much can slip into something that it's difficult to get out of. And then when you couple it with the guilt and the shame, once you do have a relapse, or once you recognize you have a problem, but you're still afraid to get help, you're afraid to understand what life's going to look like without these things that you've been using to cope. It's a scary proposition. You said that your family were big drinkers, or no?
No, no. Parents, I've never seen my parents drink. I don't, my uncle likes to drink. My siblings will have a drink in their adult lives. I guess I'm the youngest of four. But yeah, nobody in my family, at least to my knowledge, has a history of addiction or struggled with any addiction, at least in my, you know, higher in my family tree. I think, yeah. But yeah, I don't know where I got it from. But, yeah, just was the unfortunate one of the bunch to get the allergy to the alcohol. Yeah, I was talking to my buddy the other day. I was like, some people like yourself can have a drink and have a beer, have two beers, and won't bother you. You don't. And I was like, because I mean, yeah, I wish I could drink. I wish I could, have a fun night, But I mean, I've learned to have fun sober. I learned to deal with things sober. I think I'll always have that jealousy of people that can actually control alcohol. Because I mean, I can handle it, I can put it down, but there's a difference between that aspect of controlling the alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Because I can put it down and be fine. But the thing is, I'm gonna keep drinking, and my life will spiral out of control. But yeah, nobody in my family struggles with addiction. So yeah, I pulled the short straw on that side of life.
I think what's unfortunate too is that, especially from the addiction gene, right? Everybody's wired differently with that gene. That it takes to a certain point to basically activate it, and depending upon how people are influenced, have it in their lives, right? People may never get to that point of truly activating that gene, and then it's kind of like all over with. Just much like they say with people with like the lung cancer gene, right? You can be a smoker for 50 years, and if you don't have the lung cancer gene, you may get COPD and get emphysema and some sort of lung disease, but you'll never get lung
Mm-hmm.
cancer from it. And that's the same thing with the addiction gene, is that, people, for us, it truly becomes a psychological thing, that our psychology gets screwed up, our brain chemistry gets screwed up. And then with that comes physical detriment. And one of the scariest things for me about alcohol, I'll never forget this, a doctor told me, it said that, by the time alcohol truly rears its head from the amount of drinking over lifetime, especially if you're in excess, the problems metabolically in your body and the symptoms that start showing up, it's usually too late. Like the damage is done. And so, fortunately, you have youth on your side. But, it's going to be a struggle, my man. It's going to be a struggle. And so it really comes down to, trying to find that joy again in life. Don't white knuckle it, right? Because white knuckling fails, right? It doesn't work, right? If you're just holding on for dear life and you're miserable, I've even had therapists say, well, then why the hell did you stop drinking if you're just a miserable piss, because you're not drinking anymore? It's like, go find your happiness in the bottle again, I guess, because otherwise it's like
Right.
you got to find joy in your sobriety some way, shape, and form. You obviously have your channel right on Instagram, and being real. I mean, people want authenticity right now, because I mean, you're not the only one that experiences this right now. And to be honest with you, I've seen more, as far as like a comparison is concerned. I feel like I see more people from on the younger side that relapse much easier than people that are on the older side. And I don't know if it's just because simply being older and the degree and the responsibilities that one has in their life and just the physical ailments hitting them sooner and being more devastating, that they recognize, shit, I'm going to die. That creates, that maybe that chasm. But, the thing is too, is that, I mean, sobriety doesn't really have a good success ratio. It really doesn't. Right. I mean, they say people that go into a 30-day, I mean, it's less than 10% are successful.
Mm-hmm.
When you add, an outpatient program of some sort, it may go up into the teens of success. And that's why obviously AA is so successful, because it keeps you grounded. It keeps you with the people that understand where you've been, where you're going, the struggles that you have in sobriety. And there's, that community, I think, is highly important. That's, for me, next to my mental health, truly addressing my mental health, and, talking to a psychologist, talk therapy, getting medication as needed for, depression, anxiety. The community has been saving for me, completely saving, because I recognize I have a posse now, right? I can talk to them. I can even go out with them, go grab some dinner, and not have to worry about, somebody shoulder tapping me or telling me to come to the bar to have a quick shot before dinner, and or, trying to give me a guilt trip and things like that. Because even then I find that there are two different types of people in this world when it comes to those that ask you, why you're not drinking. And those are the ones that are questioning themselves and their drinking habits, especially if they find that you're sober and you weren't. They start getting pissed because now they've lost a drinking buddy. Now they're maybe even questioning their own drinking habits, and or they've questioned it, but now you've reminded them of it. So now that makes them even more pissed off. So they're going to start pushing you to join the dark side. Or you have people that ask you, why you quit drinking, and you tell them, they're like, cool, and they don't give a shit. There's two different types of people, I feel, that ask you about it, and you'll get those two different types of responses. So I definitely encourage you, to keep up with finding your posse. Working in a restaurant's difficult, my man. I've worked in some restaurants, and I tell you, the time of the day that you're working now is shifted. Everybody's going and hanging out because nobody's going to bed yet. And you know what that ends up involving? Usually drugs and alcohol and partying. And
and it's I can handle myself in the bar scene. Went to the bar a few times. Went to my sister got married in April. I had no problems staying sober through that. It's because I was never even really in the bar scene or the club scene or whatever. I would drink by myself at my house. I mean, I would go to the bar and play poker, but I like just to play. I would, if they didn't have poker nights, I wouldn't have gone. But I mean, I was an alcoholic at the same time, so it was just, I would drink there. I would drink before I went and after, but definitely drink while I was there. But it's weird that I don't really have a problem at all staying sober at a bar. It's it's yeah, I don't understand my alcohol. Well, I understand my alcoholism, but I think I beat it. I think that's really what my trigger is, because I can do stints of sobriety. Like I can fight it off. It's that impulsivity sometimes that gets me. Yeah, because I don't really don't know what my triggers are. I'm sure I have some, but yeah, I can go to the bar and handle myself. Like I was a DD a few times for the guys at the firehouse with no problems, throwing back Red Bulls. Had to.
It's interesting you say that, because I mean, I think just from talking with you, right? I think there's two big ones for you, right, that are triggers. One is life is good, let's go celebrate,
Right.
right? And the other one is, I've beat this because I've been sober for X amount of time. And I
Right.
mean, again, it's cunning, right? I mean, it slips and it slides through your logic, and it's amazing at what it can do to you. It's amazing at how well, I mean, it basically can, it's like your own brain sabotages you, it deceives you, gets you thinking one way, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you've stuck. Because I've even heard of people that have had withdrawal symptoms just from triggers, even though they've refrained from it, because it's so cataloged in them, right? That they'll kind of go through this, they'll go through a mood change and everything else the next day because they were triggered the night before, even though they refrained from it. Their mood shit, and they're just angry, and they're irritable, and they don't feel right, and these things, just because it's so cataloged in our brain that, that a memory, that, a situation, a place, people, places, and things, right? These things are so strong that you used to be, drinking in that environment with these people, that when you're sober and everything, you wake up the next day and you're kind of grouchy and grumpy and just feel off, and you don't know why. Well, that's the trigger giving you like a withdrawal from it, because you didn't satisfy the craving, in a sense. It's pretty fascinating. Last question for you. Looking back now, because you've got tons of youth on you, young man, which is awesome. But looking back at when you started and how it started escalating, if you came across a mother or a father that was trying to determine, maybe some things seem off to them about their kid, and they're wondering if maybe they have some sort of an addiction that they're hiding, how would you help them? What would you say to them? What would you
Patience, like if you know for sure, because I know my parents have trouble understanding my addiction. Because if you don't, like we were talking about earlier, if you never struggle with addiction yourself, you can't even really comprehend it. Because Patience. How old are we talking for this hypothetical
We'll
child?
say 18,
Or
19. 18,
okay,
19.
yeah. I mean, patience is maybe key because the when you're struggling with addiction, you're never gonna fix it until you want to fix it. Because I didn't fix it for my job. I didn't fix it for a girlfriend. I didn't fix it for nobody. I didn't really get serious about it until I wanted to fix it for myself. And sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom 2 or 3 times. Sometimes you thought you hit rock bottom, but that was just shallow waters. Because yeah, I thought I hit rock bottom in January. Nah, I just hit rock bottom for sure. Hopefully it's rock bottom. If I do any worse than this, Lord help me. But I mean, patience is really the thing that comes to mind. Patience, understanding. Because I've tried to get my parents to class or watch some sort of videos on what addiction is and what it does to people and how I want to change, but it's hard. It's a lot harder than you can imagine. I mean, because it's just a part of you that it's like giving up. It's like you think you're giving up everything, but you're not. Like a quote I like is like giving up alcohol, giving up one thing for everything. When you think you're giving up everything for one thing, but giving up alcohol is just giving up one thing so you can take back everything. And it's hard, even though it sounds simple. It sounds so simple. Oh, don't have a drink. Okay, yeah. The answer is very simple. The doing that is the hard part because I mean, yeah, I know, don't drink, simple, but it's just not that easy. And if you've never struggled with it, you can't really wrap your mind around that because it's a simple solution, but it's it's just not. It's not as simple as it seems, not at all. But yeah, patience and understanding. Because I mean, yeah, that's I guess the two words that are sticking out to me right now. Because it's a journey. If you're a true alcoholic, you're not going to get it. I mean, power to you if you get it on the first try. But like a true alcoholic, it's not going to happen the first time. That pink cloud's going to get you. It's going to get you a few times more than likely. Because I know it got me. Yeah, dozen if not more times. You think you can handle it, but it's not the truth. You think you beat it. You never beat it. You never beat it till you're dead. And hopefully, when that time comes, it's not because of the alcoholism. It's because old age or what have you. But yeah, you never beat it. It's always going to be there. And yeah, for me, not drinking my whole life, it's intimidating. Thinking I'm never going to drink again my whole life. Hopefully, I got a lot of life ahead of me. But yeah, as they say, one day at a time. It's very cliche, but it's the truth. One day at a
Yeah.
time. You got to break it down into an hour, 1 hour at a time. You got to do it by minute, 1 minute at a time. Just I'm not drinking this minute. I'm not drinking this hour, and then that might get you through that day. And then the next day you might not have any temptations. And just the next time it comes, just take it minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. But yeah, it's tough to understand if you've never struggled with it with yourself.
I
It's
agree
definitely
with
a
you.
disease that hopefully needs more awareness. But if you're not an alcoholic, you don't see it as a disease. I never thought it as a disease, probably up until recently, honestly. Maybe even just the last time I got out of rehab recently. I never really saw it as a disease, just thought it was just me that I like to drink too much. That
Yeah.
I never really saw it as a disease, but it's a disease. I have no control over it. I have none. I have no control over it. The only control I have is not taking the first sip. After that first sip, I have zero control. I can control that first sip. If I take that first sip, it's all hell. All hell's breaking loose.
You're right. We can't, as addicts, we can't sit there and go, oh shit, I can't drink next summer at my sister's wedding to toast champagne.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, I can't go to my retirement party and have a beer with the guys. I can't, finish a football season, a rec football season. And, I can't, go out with the wife and have a beverage. And doing those things are going to frustrate you and make it just incorrigible to live. And again, why one day at a time is so important. I know I can not drink today, and tomorrow I'll addressing not drinking that day as well. Keep yourself present, right? Keep yourself involved in your life. Patience and understanding, yes. The third thing that I definitely want to add to it is education and trying to help those that are normal people understand addiction is very, very difficult. So how do you educate them if they don't want to go to an Al-Anon meeting? One of the things that I always tell normal people is like, look, it's 3 C's. You didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. Right. So Don't think you can do, don't think that you should be responsible. I think that's something that you did that helped cause this in me. Don't
Yeah.
think that you can tell me to stop and that was the magic words I needed to hear. And don't think that one day all of a sudden I'm going to get better and I've stopped drinking for 5 years and you and I are going out and we go, hey, you've been good for so long. Well, now you can just have a beer and be good like the rest of us. Nope, nope, and nope, right? So the education, one thing that was very profound for me that I was introduced to, that I'm going to make the plug right now on YouTube. There is a Dr. Nicole Labor. And if you type in Dr. Nicole Labor, Addiction 101, she's giving a keynote speech somewhere, but she's a doctor and she is like director of like a major abuse clinic. And she was once in her life, she was a severe addict. And she gives the breakdown of what addiction is in the brain that is so well done, that helps, that I've had normal people that are close to me in my life that watched it and went, oh my goodness, I get it now. I get it how this is so difficult for you. I don't feel this, It'd be like trying to explain to somebody how diabetes affects your life if they don't have diabetes, right? I mean, but this thing I found was very, very close to it. So when you get a chance, you got to watch this on YouTube and even recommend it to your family, those you care about. It's Nicole Labor, Addiction 101. And she has a keynote speech in it. It's like about an hour long. And it is absolutely profound on how she rolls out how addiction manifests, what it does, and why it's just not simply a moral failing. Caleb, I appreciate the time. Do you have anything else you want to add, bud?
No, I guess yeah. Didn't really have anything specific in mind to talk about. I felt like we covered the basics of everything. Nothing's coming to mind. But yeah, one day at a time, man. One day at a time is all we can do.
That's it, brother. Hey, I appreciate you spending the evening with me here, bud, and on Instagram. That's you preaching the good word, putting the good fight up, going through your struggles, going through inspirational quotes, all those things. I appreciate your efforts. They inspire me, and I wish you continued success in your sobriety, my man.
Thank you. Yeah, the page is happy.sober.life.
Happy.sober.
But yeah, if anybody wants to reach out, I'm always available to talk about anything.
Happy.sober.life.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, buddy. Best of luck to you. Good luck with the new job. Blessings and prayers, and good luck on the car. And keep it up, man. You can always reach out if you need to, brother.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Take care, bud.